and Mr. Atar Said, Delivery Manager, Program Management Services, Global Design Center, WS Active Bangalore. Moderator for the session for today's IEI Technical Webinar is Mr. Mohammad Parvez, IT Manager, Herbalife Nutrition, USA. Sir, with kind permission of the Chair, we are going to start the session. May I now request Chairman, Jharkhand State Center and Council Member IEI, Mr. Siyaranjan Kumar Singh, to deliver his welcome address. Sir.
Thanks. Good evening to all of you. Today's our eminent speakers, Mr. Riaz Ahmed, Director Program Management Services Bangalore, Mr. Akhtar Syed, Delivery Manager Program Management Services Bangalore. Today's program moderator, Mohammad Parvez, IT Manager, Herbalife Nutrition USA. All the delegates who are participating in this webinar, our IEI headquarters colleagues. First of all, I welcome to all of you on the occasion of today's technical talk, driving business performance and growth through data-driven decision makings. Again, I welcome to all of you in this webinar. Very frankly speaking, I am not fully or little aware about this topic. But before joining this webinar, I go to Google Baba and see something. On that basis, I can say, in short, we can say that data-driven decision making underpins the trajectory of business growth. Data-driven decision making is when any organization use insights derived from data to inform future action, investment, and strategic plannings. Main things in data-driven decision, we can assume 3 points. You have access to high quality of internal and external data. We have to understand how to interpret, manipulate, or use of those data. We have to supportive executive team believes in the value of the data. In today's, for this topic, our 2-minute speaker, Muhammad Riaz Ahmed Sahab and Mr. Akhtar Syed Sahab is present here, and I am sure that will be much more benefited regarding these topics, this system. Initially, I have already told you that I don't know anything about this data, but due to Google Baba, I search something. Again, I welcome to all of you, sir, in this webinar. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Now, the program will go to our moderator of the session, Mr. Mohammad Parvez, IT Manager, Herbalife Nutrition, LC USA. Mohammad Parvez obtained his BTech in Production Engineering from BIT Sindri and MTech from NITI Mumbai. With work experience of more than 16 years, he is currently working as the IT Manager in Herbalife Nutrition USA, a Fortune 500 health and wellness company. Mohammad Parvez, sir, it is over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sen, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone across the world. I am sitting here in North Carolina, USA, and I'm really excited to be part of this meeting. And thank you, Mr. S.K. Singh and Mr. Sen, for inviting us to be part of this conversation. So I hope we are going to take a lot of benefit and a lot of inputs after we go through this webinar hosted by IEI Jharkhand chapter. So to begin with, the topic, as Mr. Singh has already given us some few words about it. It's about driving the business performance and growth through data and decision making. So how can we make use of data to make a proper decision? And like decision making is not a new thing, and doing a project management is also not a new thing. It's a historical, people started as early as the first human was inhabited. But now with the advancement in technology, we have data in our fingertips. So our eminent panelist, Mr. Riaz Ahmed and Mr. Athar Saeed, both from WS Atkins, they will take us through some of the initiatives they have taken in their companies, and also they will take us through some of the case studies that will help us in realizing the importance of data mining and use of data in making those decisions and the impact of those data in our business decisions. So I will hand over to Mr. Riaz Ahmed, and without any further ado, he will start his presentation. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat so that we'll have a Q&A session towards the end of this, and we can take those questions one by one if time permits. Thank you for being on this conversation. Over to you, Mr. Riaz Ahmed.
Yeah, thank you, Parvesh. Thank you. So good afternoon to all of you. I hope you all are keeping safe and well. So it is really my privilege that I am talking on a forum, which is one of the oldest institutions in India, Institute of Engineers. I'm sure everyone who are there in this call, they know about contribution of this organization. And to just set a bit of context, the topic what we are talking about is driving performance and growth through data-driven decision making. And then what is the relation between the organization from where I come and my colleague Athar, who will be talking along with me, and what exactly we do here. So just to let everyone know that this is our bread and butter basically. So as Parvez mentioned, that I lead program management services in SNC Lavalin or WS Atkins. It is WS Atkins is part of SNC Lavalin. It is a parent company is SNC Lavalin, and we are implementing this data-driven decision making in program management in our real-life programs and projects to ensure that our projects and programs are efficiently managed and delivered. So this is keeping a bit of context, but can we start sharing the slide if it is possible, Mr. Sen? Yeah, so it will be Athar who will be sharing the slide. I'll just give a brief presentation about my organization. That yeah, Mr.
I send it to you or Athar sir?
Athar, you send it to them. So just before I come to the actual topic on the data-driven decision making, I will just briefly introduce my organization. Athar, could you please bring the slide? Yeah. So this is what I was just talking about. SNC Lavalin. Atkins has been acquired by SNC Lavalin. It is a global fully integrated professional service and project management company. Just move to the next slide, Athar. Now what we have is, it is basically a global company, and what you see here, this SNC Lavalin, its office is headquarter is in Montreal, and this company, as I was mentioning, this SNC Lavalin has acquired WS Atkins, which used to be our parent company, and it is SNC Lavalin. WS Atkins is a UK-based engineering and project management company. So in my discussion, I mean, you will see that we will be using this WS Atkins and SNC Lavalin interchangeably. So it is the same company. Now what we have, It is basically we have close to 50,000 staff across the globe, and mainly our presence is around 50 countries, and there are 5 areas where we operate. One is capital, power, grid, and industrial solutions, engineering, design, and project management company, and this is the sector from which me and Athar comes. So we both are part of engineering, design, and project management company. Then we also work in infrastructure, nuclear industry, and resources, which is basically oil and gas. Our presence across the globe, you can see we are in Americas, Europe, Middle East and Africa, Asia Pacific. And then our typical offering is in the capital sector, consultancy and advisory, digital and AI, in design and engineering, procurement, construction and project management, operations and maintenance, and sustaining capitals. Next slide. Just to give you a little bit more context about where we are present in Bangalore, in India. So in India, we have 3 offices. One is in Gurgaon. We also have an office in Bangalore, and we also have an office in Mumbai. So these are the 3 metro cities where we are present, and we are close to around 3,000 staff across these 3 offices. These are some of our capabilities. The area where we work, one is infrastructure, where we do water design, asset management, geospatial, power, building design. Then in transportation sector, we work on highways, bridges, rail. Resources, oil and gas is the area where we operate. And then we also have a team which mainly focus on automation and innovation. And this is project. And we also have a team which mainly work on project and program management services. And we offer PMO as a service to our clients. Then we also have beam information modeling and nuclear. So these are the key areas where we operate in India and across the globe. These are some of the example of projects, just to give you understanding which are the projects where we have been working across the globe. So London 2012 games. So we were the company who designed, and we were basically overall project management company for London Olympics. Then we have also been operating in many other projects like A380 Airbus certification. So if I'm sure many of you must be knowing about this aircraft, and we have managed check stress analysis of the complete wing box of this aircraft. And similarly, Dubai Metro, it is in United Arab Emirates, and we have done this multidisciplinary design coordination and civil work, including geotechnical and site investigation and construction supervision. In fact, similar work we also have done for Calcutta Metro, but long back it was mostly on the concept design. So this is just talking in brief about, and similarly we have the project which we have been doing in USA. So this is just to give you context, the organization from where we come. But let us move to the actual topic, today's topic, talking about data-driven decision making. So what we will do actually, so in next we have close to 1 hour 20 minutes, and we have divided. So just briefly to share the agenda, we have divided this into 2 parts. Initially, I will talk overview of data-driven decision making, where I'll talk what exactly is the decision making, what is data-driven decision making, as Mr. Shia Ranjan Singh was saying. So we will just bring practical perspective, what exactly it means in the industry, how you utilize this data in making decisions very effectively. Then, so just to bring to life, we'll share some of the practical example from our daily life. Then we will talk about process, benefits of DDM, and then how do you drive this data-driven culture in an organization, which is very, very important. Challenges in driving data-driven culture. And then the second part, which will be covered by my colleague, Athar Sayed. He will show you some of the actual case studies from our industry. And then finally, we'll move to summary and conclusion. So moving to just to introduce you to decision making. This is a very critical skill, particularly in a VUCA environment, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. And this is how a leader and an organization is differentiated. How effective you are making your decision, how effectively you are making your decision, that will decide how your leadership skill will be valued in the organization and how your organization will perform. So this is a very, very critical attributes of a leader. Decision making is the process of making choices. So what you do is basically you identify decisions, gather information, and assess alternative resolutions. Now, generally, so when we talk about decision making, what kind of decisions you take? So there are mainly 3-4 kind of decisions, which are, I'm talking just referring key decisions. One is big bet decisions. These are quite high stake decisions, such as merger and acquisition. And these decisions are mainly done by board of directors and very senior leaders. Now, how do you make these decisions? Do you do decisions without study, or how quickly you can make these decisions? So this require a lot of study, analysis, and you need to have a lot of information. And similarly, then cross-cutting decisions like pricing decisions. Suppose if you are bidding, and which could be quite high risk, and then happen frequently and made in cross-functional forum as part of the collaborative or end-to-end process. And then the third, delegated decisions. These are frequent decisions which we do in our daily life. Basically, if you talk about the business functions, take strategy, marketing, people, delivery, execution, operations, and maintenance. So in all these areas, decision making is key. How effective you are, what kind of process you implement, that makes a lot of difference, and that is what is going to be differentiator of for a leader and for an organization. So how do you make the decision process? It is very simple. It is not something which is new. We all know. So basically, when you make a decision, you identify a decision, what exactly you are going to do. So you gather information, identify alternatives, weigh the evidences. What are the different kind of evidences? Choose among alternatives, and then finally take actions and review your decisions. So this is a typical process which you follow in decision making. But what is most important, what is the differentiator in the whole process is, which I said here, what I have shown here in picture, is timing is everything. The organization which will survive today, particularly in this pandemic, and even tomorrow, those organizations who will succeed, it all depends timing of their decision, the pace of their decision, and how do they make decisions. And there are multiple kind of challenges when you make these decisions as a leader. You come across different kind of decisions. So there is a famous Steve Ballmer. I'm sure many of you must be knowing. He was CEO of Microsoft, and he talks about leaders and decisions. He said this is all about having great leaders who can drive agile innovation and agile decision making. And this is all about. So this is what actually business is. Now, why it is so important? Decision making, why it is so important? And what are the challenges you face? What kind of organization you are developing? What kind of culture you are developing in your organization? It all depends what kind of process you follow in decision making. Nowadays leaders, they hardly have time, in particularly in a volatile environment, in a uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. You don't have time. So timing is everything. You need to, within a compressed time skill, you have to make very high stake, very important decision, high stake decision. Now, a lot of time when you make decisions, how do you buy in, or how do you get buy-in from your all the colleagues, from all the leaders at different levels? So it means you need to make decisions which are very transparent. How do you drive transparency? And even, I mean, every time you can't run around to make decisions, so you need to have a very established process in the organization. So unless you have a very established process, you can't make decisions very quickly. It will take a lot of time. And one of the study which McKinsey they did, and they in fact they were they came up with an estimate that managers typically in all the Fortune 500 companies, all big companies, they almost waste around 500,000 a year in effective decision making. What this and this in terms of amount, it turns out to be around 2.5 billion US dollar. And these are the people who are very expensive people. Their time is very important. And what happens, a lot of time they spend this time. So for example, even if you have to make one decision, for one decision you go meeting after meeting. So one meeting, two meeting, three meetings, and this is how your decision becomes ineffective. Now, how do you bring a system or a process in place so that you can cut down this timing for making decisions? You can also you can also be very transparent in decision making. And so similar study, Harvard Business Review, they did a study with around 600 C-suite leaders across the globe, and they came up with a survey, and you can see what it talks about. So a lot of time people, they said that no, there is no transparency into how most key decisions are made in the organization, and it's a big problem. So if you don't have transparency, it means you are not able to get buy-in from your employee or from your colleagues. And many managers, because they don't have data, they don't have structured information in place, when they make decisions on their gut feel. It is all judgment, but judgment and gut feel cannot always be true. If you are a very experienced manager, or if you are a very experienced leader, maybe 70% or 80% you may be correct, but again it is person dependent. So what it says effectively, what I'm saying, that although decision making looks very simple on the face, but it is not that. So you need to have a process in place so that your leaders can make decisions very effectively, on time, in a structured manner, so that you can it is all basically a evidence-based decision, which is really going to make difference in the organization. Let's move to the next slide. Now, what is actually data-driven decision making? So this is where actually I will spend a bit of time to explain. So what happens when you make decisions? So you bring a lot of data. What is data? Is information. And I'm talking about anything. And so data-driven decision making is nothing but making a evidence-based decision. It means in an organization, when progress is measured and decisions are made using data rather than intuition. And that's what I said earlier, or past examples or your personal experience. So it is not based, but facts and figure. You bring in front of the board facts and figure, and then you say why you are making this decision. For example, if you are bidding on a particular job, then what should be your pricing strategy? It should be based on how you have been performing in that market. How much you have resources, how much profit you make. So there are a lot of information you need. So effectively, so you take this data and you basically, this is your building blocks, or say data is something like your crude oil. So just to draw parallel or metaphor, data is like your crude oil. You can't do anything unless you put into refinery, so you have to refine it. and it is low value thing. So the graph on the right side, what I'm showing you here, data, it has low value, and it is, things of past. But as you move towards right in this graph, you will say that the value of data improves. And so basically, initially what you do is basically you take the data. Initially what you do, you do reporting analysis. So you do descriptive analysis. What happened? Based on the historical information, you make this in what has happened, what data is telling me. Okay, and then you go to the diagnostic. Why did it happen? Again, it is your previous data. So hindsight of the information you are getting. Then you go to, once you know that how I have been performing today, what's happening, then you go where I will end up. So reporting and monitoring is part of diagnostic analysis. What is happening today in the real life, what my data is telling, and then based on your trend or historical information, you make prediction. So for example, you have to reach to a particular target, then you do this prediction based on the different kind of models. So you create, there are different kind of models like Monte Carlo analysis. So there are different kind of predictive model which you implement, and then it will tell you where you will end up. So for example, if your project is running for last 3 years, and you're in terms of cost and in terms of schedule, this is the historical information. Then by using a very good algorithm and a very good predictive model, you will be able to assess when your project is going to complete and what will be your profit margin when you complete the project, how much you will spend in terms of time and cost. So this kind of model, and this is very very relevant in today's world. Every company, all big company across the globe, they have been investing a lot of money in understanding what is my data telling, what is happening today in my organization, and if I have to reach to a particular point, what I will do. So basically, by seeing the hindsight, you get insight, and then foresight. So where we will end up. So this is basically, you use this is the philosophy, or this is the technique we use in data driven decision making. So you take the data, you use data in doing completely detailed analysis. So the benefit of this data driven decision making is, this gives you a kind of culture where you can examine and organize that data, keeping your goal in the mind, and then effectively it helps you, it bolsters the speed of business decision making. So as I said in the uh, start of this presentation, timing is very important. But if managers and leaders, if the board of directors, if they have all the information and data about a particular aspect in front of them, they can quickly make decisions in one meeting rather than spending number of days to make a decision. So effectively, so data driven decision making is very important in today's complex world. Arthur, can we move to the next slide, please? Now, just to bring a real perspective to data driven decision making, I have just taken these two examples so that it will be easy for audience to understand what I am talking about. What is data driven decision making? So if you remember our railway, if you go back 10-15 years, I mean probably 15-20 years, I would say, Indian railway reservation system, it used to be a very complex system, very ineffective. So every region, every station, they used to have quota. Okay, you have 10 seats, you have 5 seats, and I mean, it used to be a very manual process. So what I have shown here, you see some of the handwritten, this Rajdhani Express ticket is handwritten, and that time it was no way you can understand and you can know how many seats are available, or if I am not getting today, when I can get. So it used to be a very complex problem. And railway had a lot of challenges in terms of selling their tickets. But now you know, I mean, how railway is making, I mean, money, although it is a public sector company, but the way they have adopted technology and data, it is amazing. Now at any point of time, you can go and you can find out what different kind of trains, how many seats are available. And if you remember the old days, we used to have a timetable. It was quite a thick book, you know. But now everything is available in front of you. So what they have done is basically what they have done. They have connected different kind of system, different kind of process, and different kinds of data, and they have made that available even on a mobile phone. So any person can, you know, find out. So this is a perfect example of data-driven decision making, basically. So, you know, even all individual levels. So we have given that decision from a person who was sitting in the ticket counter to, you know, individual's hand. So I can go and just quickly see, and then I'll reserve my ticket. This is one example. Very real example. Another real example, I would say. Recently, if you remember, I live in Bangalore. So in fact, I came across this crisis in May 21. I mean, recently in the month of May in Bangalore, there was a huge crisis because of the second wave. In Bangalore, a point of time came where absolutely there was no seat available. I mean, you know, and government has to take control of all the hospitals, and there was almost for 2 weeks there was chaos. Getting a seat or knowing where bed is available in hospital was a daunting task. People used to run pillar and post to understand where I can, you know, admit my person, and a lot of people lost their life because, you know, it was really very, very difficult to know where beds are available. I mean, it is just not the bed, but, you know, there are different kind of beds, you know, where it is available. And you can see here, almost they were saying that it is 99%, 100% full, and a lot of people did. At that time, and you must have seen this, you know, there was a bed scam, there was corruption, and, you know, people started playing with all this crisis. And BBMP, which is this Bangalore, Bruhat Bangalore Mahanagar Palike, you know, what they did immediately, they took help of Infosys, and they came up with a very good Power BI. So Power BI is the tool they use, and they collected all the data in one place. So public were able to know at any point of time how many seats government has, what kind of seat is available, and where it is available. Although it was not very successful because that we didn't have that much time, but, you know, it really helped to streamline the whole bid allocation process. So just to give you an example, Athar, can you just click that Power BI link, Microsoft Power BI? Yeah. So even that Power BI, and this is Microsoft Power BI is a tool which Athar will talk in detail, but this is what BBMP came up. And you can see here, at any point of time, you know, citizens were able to know how many seats are available, what kind of seats are available, and what they can do with this. And that time it was really very important. So it really helped in, you know, streamlining, but it was nothing, it was not a very big thing. But what they did, they brought different data sources from different hospitals, and you know, they were able to show it. Now it is the latest data what you see here. Today that crisis is not there, but this was a very, very important I would say initiative which Karnataka government took at that point of time, and it really helped. Within, you know, 2 weeks, if you remember, within 2 weeks, the government of Karnataka, they were able to control this crisis. So this is another example of data-driven decision making. Yeah, just move to the next. Now, when you this, I'll talk a little bit about here. So what is the process? So when you make this data-driven decision making, what is the process you follow? So, and two things which I have shown. This is again a cyclic process, So if you want to make a decision which is evidence-based, which is driven by data, then first of all understand the context. So for example, just to bring practical context, you see a dashboard here, which is for a call center performance dashboard. So effectively, the context here is that I want to improve the performance of my call center. It is a very simple example, and a lot of companies they work. Now, how I'm going to improve? What are the KPIs? So then So first of all, coherence with a shared vision presented on a strategy map. So when you make a strategy map, you first understand what is your objective, the bigger picture, and then make decisions more tangible and more specific with KPIs. What are the KPIs or key performance indicator which is going to help these decisions? So you have to identify. So for example, here my aim is to improve the performance of the call center. Then I have different kind of how many agents are talking, how many agents are available, what is the longest call waiting, call in queue, call handling, so effectively this once you have this dashboard or this data in front of you, the real time where is the problem. So you need to have a very good KPI, and then visualization, what we have done here. Then if something is not happening, what is the action plan? Use the performance data for leading and lagging indicator, and then plan activities. What is the rationale why it is not happening? What is the budget where you have to spend? And then if something is not really meeting your end goal, then how do you prioritize your decisions, where you have to make investment, which are the activities, maybe there are some low hanging fruits where you have to quickly act. No, and then finally you have to, after you have prioritized your decision, so once you have created a framework of all the decisions, you use your KPIs as basis for discussion and improvement. So basically you start executing, and then you start analyzing the result, and then finally you improve communication infrastructure and internal mechanics. So what I'm saying that there are this is really, there are so many models available, but this is one of the best model which I could see in the internet, and this is developed by Ketonic. It is a software development company focused on a strategy execution solution. So what you see is the process is what are the key things in data driven decision making, that you need to have a bigger picture in front of you, and accordingly create your shared vision. The most important, you have to define your KPIs which you are going to measure, and then make that available to across all the stakeholders. So whoever is the stakeholders, make them available to them, so that at real time you can make this decision. And based on what you are getting, what is the output you are getting of your KPI, accordingly you plan your decisions, prioritize your decisions, execute your decisions, analyze the result, and then finally put them in the learning loop. So what you can see here in this one, when you have this kind of simple dashboard, even for a call center, performance of employee who are working on those call center, performance of the organization, everything we will improve. So there you will see everything in real time, and this is what actually this is one way of making decisions, and we do real life, because you get the real life data in front of you and you know what's happening. It is like a lot of time those who are working in the industry, you have control room, you know what is the temperature of your furnace and what's happening. So then and there you can make decisions, and this is what even in the real life world, in an organization, if you implement the same philosophy, you will be able to make wonders. Let's move to the next slide. Now what is the benefit? Again, what I'm showing you, I mean, there are two things. One, I have shown a practical example. So one thing, Harvard Business Review, again, they did a research which I presented, and they have a team, Harvard Business Review Analytics Services. And what they said is they spoke with different kind of executives, around 600 executives across the globe, and then say what is the benefit you see. So there are different kind of, what you see here, there are four kind of people who responded. One is isolated users. So if you apply DDM in isolated users, so basically 1 or 2%, 1 or 2 department, then what is the advantage you get? If you get some functions only, so if you are applying DDM in some functions and then in some units and then across the globe, so across the corporate wide users, so if you have really integrated system, then what you will see that increased productivity, you can increase productivity up to 79%. And this is a real I mean output of a survey. It is just not a theory. And if similarly you can reduce your risk of decision making up to 78%. That is, you can reduce the cost of decision making, as you heard earlier. I mean, $2.5 billion per year, which is a huge amount of money. Cost, you can then faster decision making. You can make decisions very fast. Program improvements. So if you're running a long program, you can improve your program very quickly. Then improve financial performance. And this is key. A lot of time when you start seeing your dashboard or data real time, every moment, every Friday, every Monday, then you know what's happening in your project, on your programs. And that time, it allows you basically to make critical decisions, because at any point of time, you know what's happening. It is like, having a thermometer. So, and then finding new ways and approach of business issues. So these are the different, some of the benefits of data driven decision making. And just to bring to a practical context, what I am showing you, this is exactly what I did in my organization here in SNC Lavalin in Bangalore, or WS Atkins. So we have, as I mentioned, we have 3 offices. Then you have around 3,000 technical staff. They all have been working on different projects. And initially, because all these were not connected, and as a result of that, we used to struggle to optimally utilize our resources. So there used to be a lot of similar type of skill who is available, whereas in one other project is recruiting. This was common. So what we did, our resources, headcount data, their current engagement, so productivity, their resource utilization. So what is the green one? Then you have forecast, what kind of work in people they will be working, what is the current workload, who are the resources available, and then project details, their discipline wise utilization, and then the trading summary, so effectively how much trading we are doing. So we all connected, and we created a very comprehensive dashboard, which all the line managers, so basically leaders, first line line managers, second line, and all the leaders, they were able to see what is happening, how many resources. For example, I'm talking about structural engineers. So across India, I have 500 structural engineers. How many structural engineers are currently productive? If someone is available, what is the skill set? And then how can we retrain them? How can we utilize? So all those kind of things people were able to do in real time, because they were able to see information in front of them every week and every day. And as a result of that, we really got a lot of benefit. So in terms of efficiency, we significantly improved. In fact, earlier we used to be around 70%, and then it significantly improved over the years. And now utilization has gone up to 90%. So hardly you will find anybody is available. And why we are able to make this decision very quickly, because all this information in an integrated manner, it is available to all the leaders, all the line managers, and all the stakeholders. Okay, and it also improves the predictability of a business. So how I am going to perform in this quarter, next quarter, and we were able to make decisions. For example, if there is a variation in the workload, then what I need to do with my resources? Can we retrain them? Can we reskill them? So all those kind of benefit we could get only because we had this DDM implemented across the organization in India. And now we have a very standardized process. Now we are thinking, how do I further improve it? So again, the study by McKinsey Global, what it's again, they have done analysis and they came up data-driven organization are 23 times more likely to acquire customers, 6 times as likely to retain customers, and 19 times as likely to be profitable. So this is the advantage of or benefit of data-driven decision making. Other, next slide, please. Now, how do you, so other thing is, how do you drive a culture? So now when you're talking about data-driven decision making, it is, how do you implement that across the globe or across your company? So data-driven culture, what actually it is a set of norms about decision making, where we expect each others to justify their actions with facts and with models. So effectively, this is the culture which you want to implement in your organization. Then what is the step? What are the things you have to do? So data-driven culture, if you want to implement it in organization, then it starts from the very top. The top person who is there in the organization, he should make the data, particularly decisions based on the data, and he has to be. So it starts from the top basically. Unless you start from the top, it will not be. No. So decisions by senior managers and top leaders must be anchored in data. They need to lead through example. That's very important. Then another important thing which I explained is choose your metrics with care and cunning. So leaders can really make powerful effect on behaviors of people or behaviors of an employee by artfully choosing what to measure and what matrices they expect employee to use. So depending on how do you design your KPI, your culture or your behavior of your employee will be defined. Another third thing in driving data driven culture is don't pigeonhole your data scientists. What does it mean? It's basically don't create barrier between your data scientists and business leaders or those people who has got functional knowledge. Generally what happens, you have a software developers who doesn't know what is actually about the data. He just develop a model or he create a dashboard who doesn't understand. But what will be most practical approach is bring this data scientist and the people with business knowledge together, and this is what actually we have done in our organization. So for example, we work in a program management services. Lot of our analytics, lot of our visualization, these are done by people who understand what is project management. So they understand the principle, and along with that they have acquired this analytical skill. And as a result of that, output what you get from this kind of people is very different than what you will get from a pure analytics person or pure data person. So it is very, very important that don't pigeonhole your data scientists. Don't make them don't keep them in isolation. They have to be together. Another thing is fix the basic data access issue. And a lot of company, what happens because of various reasons, people starve for organization data. Data is not available. If data is not available, if it is not accessible to your different levels of users, then how they can predict something, because of various, sometime, you will find that for silly reasons, people are not giving access to data, and that becomes a blocker. And so if you have to really flourish, and if you have to really drive a data-driven decision culture, then data must be accessible to right stakeholders at the right time. And then once you have done your analysis or prediction, it is most important to quantify uncertainty. So what is the confidence level? For example, if I am giving that, okay, my forecast for this year is 100 million. Now I also need to see what is the confidence level which I have. Is it 95% confidence level? It is 60% confidence level. And what are the different options? So this is another important when particularly when you are driving this DDM culture, it is very important that people, those who are doing this kind of analysis, they should be able to quantify what are the uncertainties, what is the difference, what are the different types of confidence level in the data. So for example, if when I predict productivity or utilization, so for within 1 week data, what is my confidence level? For next 1 month, what is my confidence level? If I am predicting for 3 months, what is my confidence level? For 1 year, what is my confidence level? And what are the different options? So that is another important thing. And sixth thing which in this area is basically when you make proof of concept and simple, and that should be very simple and robust and not fancy and brittle. Generally what happens, so when you create a simple dashboard, if it is very fancy and it is very complicated, then really you won't get output. So you have to make sure that engineer your proof of concept, where core part of the concept is viable and in production. So quickly you have to make a system, or you have to combine the process in such a way that you bring things together very quickly, so that people you are able to see the real benefit very quickly. Then what is another important thing is specialized training also should be offered in time to staff. So those who are working on data driven activities, or those who are working on analytics side, they must be trained on time, and they should implement that, and then only you can. So effectively training of your staff is very important in driving this culture. And one thing, if you want to really motivate your staff, then use of analytics, this should also help employees. A lot of time when we work in engineering design, when we work on project management, there are a lot of activities which is repetitive, and no one really loves, particularly engineers, they don't like doing repetitive tasks. Is there any way we can make those repetitive tasks automated? If you are able to automate, if people can find ways, for example Python, it is commonly used in the data science, and people are using this language Python very effectively in automating things which is quite repetitive in nature. Robotic process automation, a lot of activities those are repetitive in nature, we have automated. So use of analytics can help to avoid rework, save time, and will also improve the performance. And most important thing, when you are driving this data-driven decision making, you have to be flexible for consistency, at least for the short term. Many companies have different bespoke solutions. So if you have 10 departments, in all those departments, they have their own data sources, if they have their own dashboards, if they have their own process for analyzing their data, then it is very difficult to roll it up. So for example, if you have 10 plants in 10 locations in India, and if you want to see performance of your 10 plants across India at India level, then it will be difficult unless all those 10 places they use consistent process and data. And then finally, once you have done, what we have to do is basically you have to get in a habit of explaining analytical choices. So if you're using a particular analytics model, or if you're using a particular solution, then you need to brainstorm. You have to get buy-in from your stakeholders, and then you explain why are you using this, what is the validity of this. Validation is very important. So if these are the 10 quick steps, if you take, then it will really help to create a data-driven cultures. So So in summary, I mean, what I have sent here is data-driven business doesn't happen just with data and technology, but it requires shift in the mindset and efforts from the leadership and employee. So it is a collective effort. It is not going to happen just by one person. You have to understand what is the change, do it efficiently. Executives, those who are responsible, those are senior stakeholders, they have to advocate about it. You have to bring agility. You have people should be data proficient, so they will be and they should be able to communicate about mission, goal, and needs of the entire organization. So it is not the process and just technology, but it is the mindset. It is a complete culture which is needed. Athar, so we can move to the next one. So this is where I will stop. Then when challenges in data-driven culture. Now what I presented, there are 4 very important things when you are using data-driven decision making. One thing, first of all, you have to understand the data which you are getting, how that was sourced. So sometimes wrong data is worse than not having data actually. So quality of data and care with which it was sourced is absolutely important, very important. Unless you do that, you will not be able to make correct decisions. So that's very important. Another important area is how it was analyzed. So you have different kind of predictive model. Now, how this has been analyzed? What kind of regression analysis has been done? What kind of model was utilized? Is there any problem in the model? So that also analysis you have to do. You have to find out. So quality of your analytic model. Is there any data leakage? Is there kind of overfitting of data? So this is another important thing which you have to understand. And then finally, sometime you don't have always data. If you don't have data, then how do you make decisions? So for example, I mean, in credit industry, or if you'll see, but particularly in banking industry, they give, particularly in US or Western countries, they have credit rating. So credit rating is immediately available when you have done a lot of what you call transactions. So your file is quite thick, and then they can make very quick decision what is your credit rating, and then accordingly, based on your credit rating or based your historical data, they can decide whether to give loan or not. But what happens if I am new to US and I don't have a credit rating? Or maybe I may be a person who is quite honest. I will pay my all the debt on time, but sometimes you don't you don't give that credit to this kind of people because you don't have data. And similarly, and this is applicable everywhere, so there also you have to make your engineering judgment, and you have to bring your what you call leadership skill, that what kind of decision you make when you don't have a data. So what data doesn't tell you, and once you have data, how can we use data to redesign product and business model? So once you have done, so in summary, what happens? So in data driven culture, there are 4 things which is pillar of data driven culture. One is data literacy, so people should understand what is data, how it has to be used, experience of people in data analytics, organizational capability, you should be quite strong, and then your business should be data driven, and then how are you connecting your data system? So again, there was a survey which was done by again Harvard Business. So big data and AI executives survey they did, and then they were finding out what were the main key issues in driving this data driven culture. So you can see here around 90% say this is mainly issue with the people and process. It is not about data. There is a resistance, there is a change, and adoption of big data or AI initiative, that is another challenge. Lack of organizational alignment. Although we talk about it, but how many people are ready to be very transparent? Are you ready to give access to all level of leadership. And then cultural resistance. Generally, people have been making decisions based on a particular method. Sometimes you will find that people become quite possessive about their, this is the way I have been working with this. So the cultural resistance is another challenge in data driven decision making. Move to the next slide. So this is where I will stop. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. But what I'll do now, I will request, I will hand over to Parvez, and so over to you, Parvez.
Thank you. So I believe we have some leftover case studies to be covered by Athar Sayed. So I'll hand over to him. And thank you for your patience. I know it's a very, very broad topic, but it was really interesting. And thank you, Mr. Riaz Ahmed, for taking us through all those case studies.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thought if there are any questions or anything that people may have until this far, we might want to just take them at this moment.
I don't think I've received any questions in the chat window.
Okay, but in general, if anyone has got any questions, because these were
to our moderator, one question only has forwarded till now. However, sir, we can take all the questions after the session get over, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so over to you then, Athar.
All right. So if the sharing can actually be enabled for Riaz, or do I continue, Riaz?
No, I will share that. So I will just move to that. Could you please enable sharing? Devraj?
Here, sir, Devraj is an another routine. Sir, sharing option is already with Athar.
Okay. Okay. Athar, it looks like it's not possible.
That's
please
fine.
Go ahead.
That's fine. All right. No worries. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. That's good. So we have looked at quite a lot of information about how organizations take decisions and how they are enabled by analytics. We have shown some of the case studies, the real case studies here, although the data itself are not real. So we have, we are not in a position to share these case studies or our dashboards with you with the real data. So we have redacted, or we have actually changed the data, and we are showing you these case studies. So these are all right to be shared across on a forum like this. But before we look into these case studies, I'll take you slightly deeper inside the analytics. So our traditional approach for analysis and reporting, I'm sure most of us on the call and the engineering community in general have actually been doing some analytics in some sort, to some extent, using Excel, for example, very traditional, very conventional tool. And they have been working with different sort of platforms. So what we have noticed is over the period of time when we have evolved ourselves from the conventional Excel mode to now the actual analytics, the data were coming from many different sources, and they were not properly scrutinized, they were not properly authenticated. So we had data in an Excel. Excel, if you kind of accept this argument, is completely vulnerable to editing by anybody. So and it can have many different versions. You never know which is the final version, which is the final file. So these are challenges with Excel files, and we were continuing to operate using this Excel and do our analytics. So the multiple data sources, disconnected databases. And if you have Excel, can you believe that there were 10 Excels or 10 different modes of data sources, and all of them are connected? We never imagined this could be this could ever happen. So we always have had disconnected databases. So some information was available to us in some other format, like Microsoft Word, or in Excel, or in PowerPoint, or in the recent years on SharePoint and some other project planning tools, for example, such as Microsoft Project. or Primavera, Oracle's P6 system. So these are different discrete ways of managing the data, but these were not talking to each other. So these were disconnected databases. And then there were manual repetitive work. So people had a lot of wasted time and effort in correcting the data and continuing to do over and over again the same set of data processing. The data has to be processed a lot before it is ready for analytics. And there were lots of manual repetitive work. With the new technology that we are going to look into, the complete automation, as even Riaz mentioned during his presentation, his discussion, a lot of such automation tools have helped us to actually prepare this data and keep it ready for any future updates and evolution of our dashboards. And finally, difficulty and person dependent. So Mr. X will know where the certain dashboards and certain Excel files are available to them, and Mr. Y will know where the HR data will be available. Mr. Z will know where that data will be available, but none of these people will know everything. So there were different people and different responsibilities, and if you had to really do analytics which crosses the functions, because today's analytics can never be a single dimension that you have one data and you just present it. Some of my reports you will see in a moment that these are cutting across various different functions, and if through the proper security you bring the data together from various different disciplines and various different departments and various different functions, then you have a huge potential to actually draw out various useful information and insights from these dashboards, unlike a single dimensional sort of data. So these are person dependent, these are very isolated, very disconnected. This was the most traditional approach for analysis and reporting. And I'm sure that you will agree with how we have actually been operating our businesses so far. Now comes the advanced analytics and reporting. So people have moved into various bringing in various different platforms such as Tableau, ClickSense, through ThoughtSpot, Oracle Analytics Cloud, Sisense, and Looker. These were tools that were launched into the market very recently. I would not be wrong if this was in this millennium. And these were tools that actually started operating at a very high level in terms of their process streamlining. So they were very efficient in terms of preparing the data. They were very efficient in bringing together different data from different sources. They were very efficient in giving you the proper scrutiny of the data. And finally, they were very efficient in providing you the ability to actually present the data in the right form. So the front-end visualization is also very powerful in these tools, unlike Excel, which can give you some sort of bar graphs or pie charts or something. These different tools have enabled the users and the developers to create such powerful dashboards where people can draw lots of insights, and it can actually be presented in a whole different way. We never imagined this before. So these are tools that are available to us. The costs vary, their functions and features vary. Tableau, for example, is a very expensive software to begin with in the first time investment, but then it is really powerful, and it stands on the top of the list. But what happens is Microsoft comes into the market, and it has actually given us a tool which is called as Power BI. So this is something which is an outstanding tool available in the market as a form of Microsoft subscription. So Office 365, we have got Word, PowerPoint, and Project, and Excel, and so many different tools, and Power BI is also one amongst them. So we in our organization have quite heavily lean upon the Power BI. So Microsoft Power BI, the BI stands for Business Intelligence. So this Power BI tool stands out in the market at this moment with regards to its initial purchasing cost, its annual subscription, which turns out to be very, very economical compared to any of the other tools. Its efficient, seamless integration with other systems within Microsoft. So for example, there is Microsoft SQL database, there is SharePoint, where you can store lots of huge amount of data. Power BI can read that data very efficiently because it's again the same platform of Microsoft. And then there is an app for Power BI. You can look at these dashboards through your mobile, on your tab, on your laptop, anywhere. And this can be shared across the organizations, even outside the organizations, to the people. So just like we saw that example of the COVID bed allocation in Bangalore from the municipality in Bangalore. I never knew that if I click that Microsoft Power BI, when Riaz asked me to open, it would open to me just like that, but it did. So we could just click on that link and it opened up the whole Power BI dashboard for us. We didn't have to buy any software. We don't need anything. Just the browser is enough for us. So this is the powerful integration that Microsoft has offered us. So this stands out in the market at this moment, and we have extensively learned and spent our time in training ourselves into this Power BI software. But we do have capability in Tableau and lots of other software. We have found ourselves migrating towards Power BI. Okay, let's now get on to the actual case studies. It may not be very easily visible to you, so I would apologize for that. The data is very small here because we have compressed multiple pages of a dashboard into one. But the first page that we have is this one on the left hand side, which is about the financial dashboard of a county, the city county in Georgia state, United States. And the data here, which is presented, is publicly available on their website. So they run a program by having 1% of the sales tax of the entire county collected for the purpose of development of the infrastructure, such as parks, roads, transportation, and senior citizen houses and other things. So they take that small amount of money and they invest there. Atkins and SNC-Lavalin, they provide program management services to Cobb County. So we looked at the data available publicly on their website, and we thought we would utilize it, and we will actually create a dashboard. So there was the requirement to create a dashboard was just like discussed during the calls and in our strategy. But then how would we actually create it? What kind of visuals would be presented? What information is needed to be drawn out of these dashboards? It's all dependent on some of the people who actually understand this very well, and they are called as business analysts. So there is a specific role in the analytics, which is called as business analyst. They understand the customer's requirements. They understand how we will actually be able to bring the data, and they understand what kind of visuals will be important, because the real estate on a dashboard is very, very premium. It comes at huge cost. I mean, if you were given an A4 page and you were asked to create some of the visuals that will present the right data and nothing else, because these dashboards remain there forever for a considerable amount of time. So the real estate on a dashboard, A4 size page, is very important. So we cannot afford to have everything and anything in this world on this dashboard. So the business analysts will sit together and they will understand the requirements of the consumer or the customer of the data, the actual user of this dashboard, and they will bring the data and they will understand them. So we go through a whole lot of process. I cannot show you how a dashboard process we actually run through, but it is all driven by process, as Riaz mentioned earlier. You gather the requirements, you discuss the data frequency and the data integrity, you spend time on the checks and balances of the data, and then you create a mock-up, the third step, and you show to the consumer, the customer, is this something that will fit the requirement for you? They will say yeah. So that's the third step. The fourth step, they will move into defining some more technical and forms and feature requirements. Then you create it on the actual platform, and then you share it with them, and then you validate the whole data. Everything that comes onto this dashboard must be validated. It must be accurate. You cannot afford to have any data presented here which is inaccurate. So you need to validate this finally, and then get the sign off from your customer, and then publish it finally. and this gets published everywhere. So with proper security within the company, within the organization, it gets published. So on the left hand side, this Cobb County dashboard we created for the purpose of understanding how our customer, which is the Cobb County, it's actually the government of the Cobb County that spends money on the infrastructure development, and we wanted to study them and even show it to them. So this is nothing which lies internal to Atkins, and we have given it to our customer as well. We have presented to them that we have given you insights of what departments you have spent the most money on, for example, in the last 10 years. So Department of Transportation stands out, and then the Finance Department, Department of Public Safety is the third one, and so on and so forth. So their largest amount of data, the investment has actually gone in the Department of Transportation, which might have been very critical in the past years. But this gives the idea to the customer that they might have to balance it perhaps in the next few years. So and what's the proportion? Is it disparate? Is it kind of skewed, that they have spent the most money on Department of Transportation but not anywhere else? So this visual tells you in that manner. And similarly, department-wise average budget on projects. Here these are called as funnel charts. This gives you very crisply an information about top 10 projects by their current budget. So what are the ongoing projects, and what are those top 10 projects by their current budget? So from top to bottom, this is called as a funnel chart. So they can look at these top 10 projects. And when projects are aggregated together, they form programs. So if someone has gone through a PMI book of knowledge or the process, they will understand that similar natured projects and similarly purposeful projects come together to become programs. So we have given them an idea about their top 5 programs, for example. So some of these programs are like on the transportation, finance, and other various different programs throughout the entire county. And these are like monthly trend of project budget. So on a monthly basis, right from January 20 to February 2021, how have they been spending their money, and trend of project budgets. So it's the actual against the baseline and the forecast. So it just runs throughout the time period. And the count of projects by the month. How many projects have they launched? How many projects have actually been completed? And new projects on the bottom left here. So you will see the green ones are the new projects which were kicked off during a specific month. So if you notice this specific month, they had most number of projects throughout the year kicked off and launched. And right here on this one, I mean, I wish I would have shown you the interactive dashboard. This is the entire geographical map of this Cobb County. And if you click on any of these districts, there are 4 districts within this county, district number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you click on any of these districts, you would find the number of projects being displayed there. And once you click them, then everything on this dashboard, including these funnel charts, the line charts, and the bar graph, will all reflect the data for this specific thing. This was never achievable to us in any of our traditional methods using Excel or anything. You bring a geographical map and you click on the district, and you will find all the information to you available and relevant for that specific district. So this is the financial thing. On the right hand side, you would notice the schedule dashboard. So this gives you all the projects and their various milestones. There may be 15, 20 milestones. What were their original dates to start off? And what were their scheduled dates? And then the actual date when they happened, whether they were engineering or something, and what was their status, completed on time, were they completed late, were the status unknown, so on and so forth. And once you do this, and you know these simple tables were given to us, but now the intelligence lies within the Power BI to actually read the data and to present many more information than what you could imagine. On the right hand side, this is typically called as a rack status, red, amber, green. So you notice that the late ones are called as red, and then the completed late, they were completed, but they were completed late. Those were like amber, and then the completed on time were like green ones. So we give them a rack status, and these are very, very dynamic statuses. So as you push the data behind this dashboard and you update it, you will immediately see that the new percentages are available to you. So this is all that information, and we have even been able to bring the Microsoft project Gantt chart within the same Power BI. You can scroll through and find the entire status of each of these milestones in a milestone summary table. So this is the Gantt chart. If people are familiar, I'm sure there will be people who are well versed with project management, and they can see the whole Gantt chart here and all of these summary tables. And we give them a date on when this dashboard was last refreshed, right? So if you have a data which has been pushed from the backend, the latest data, they will be able to see, yes, this is up to date until today. So this is all that kind of dashboards that's available to our customers. The second one, I present you 3 case studies, and this is the second one out of them. And we have various different diversity of what dashboards we can create. This one is about non-conformances report. Any company, when they work with the clients, for example, when a government private PPP through a partnership, they release a tender and a project, they will have different contractors to work together, and there will be times when they will be issued with non-conformances in terms of their quality checks and other things. So are these being studied? Are these being kind of put under observations, and are these being measured? So unless we measure them, we won't be able to improve them. So there is a dashboard now that we are measuring of non-conformances raised on a project by our customer, and this data is again fictitious, but this dashboard is looking into the entire workflow. When a NCR, non-conformance report is raised from the beginning, it goes through the whole process of being identified by somebody, being approved by somebody, and then being accepted by somebody, and then the cost part of it, and then finally the action ownership given to somebody, the date being identified, and so on. So this entire workflow, this is a dashboard which gives you a diagnostic tool to look at your processes on where different counts of your NCRs are sitting at this moment. So 23 are sitting at issued status, 44 are sitting at in review, and the 9 are sitting with the government agency. So you know exactly where you are, and we also start measuring their aging. So how long or maximum time an NCR has actually been sitting without having taken an action about. So we start looking into their aging, and we have got these days remaining for the open ones. And this is connected with real-time data. So we are not pushing Excel into these dashboards. We are actually having a SQL database where the data is being measured and fed from the project teams, and this dashboard takes the data from real time from those SQL databases, and it just continues to present on and on. And this is refreshed on a daily basis. Every 24 hours, once this is refreshed, and the consumer of this data will get to know the exact status on a daily basis. And there's row level security. So if you log in as a project manager, you will have much more information available to you, for example, in terms of the budgets and the actual impact of these NCRs, and so on and so forth. But if you are just an ordinary user of this report and you just want to know the count, then we provide that level of security. So the Microsoft Power BI, it recognizes who has logged in, and it gives you the data based on the user's permission levels and their privileges. And then this is auto refresh. So we can always have auto refresh of the data. Nobody has to go and update the data in Excel or something. This continues to run by its own. This is auto refresh. So this is the second example which I wanted to show you. And then finally, the third example, which I'm sure that you will probably be amazed to look at. We have been able to integrate an actual route map of a metro line extension project somewhere in Canada, where our customer wanted to understand the status of each of these stations. So this is a station line. So for example, if you were looking at any of the metro lines, this is an extension line starting from this particular station, which is Limebank, to the rightmost station, which is Bayview station. So they want to understand the status of each of these stations in terms of their design and construction. We are doing a design and build project, and they would like to understand these different statuses. And every station has got its own different status. So now if you have a route map like this, we can integrate this in Power BI. We can click on a specific station, and everything on the left hand side, the tables, the donut charts or the semi-donut charts, they will immediately show you the status of that specific station. So you just have to click the station, and this the information on the left will reflect exactly where you have clicked, and it will show you that data. And the basis of this entire thing is earned value analysis. So we do an earned value analysis in the back of this system, and the data is available to us in how much are we progressing, how much are we spending on each of the tasks, and what value are we drawing out from having spent $1, for example, on a task. So that's called as the earned value. People familiar with project management are quite familiar with this process. So this is another good example which I wanted to show you in how we actually present the data for a specific dashboard. So these are 3 quick examples we wanted to present you, and I think is this the right time to move on to the conclusion summary, or we would like to take any questions at this point of time? What do you think, Riaz and others?
Yeah, there are 2 questions.
Yeah, I think we can wait. We can take questions and then probably we move to,
Sure.
Yeah, so one question. Yeah, so there's one question that came up was, how do you ensure the quality of data? Any suggestion? So basically you want to know, how do you ensure that the data is of the right quality, and what steps needs to be taken to ensure that we don't have junk data, or we do not make decision based on incorrect data?
Riaz, or you want to? I think. Sure. I mean, it's a very good question. How do you ensure that the data is actually correct and accurate? Because garbage in is garbage out. I mean, it's very well known. So if you throw any data, the dashboards would just show you the same data. There is a definite process of even doing a data integrity check. We have come up with a robust process on how the data integrity can actually be measured. So we would like to see what is the granularity of the data. First of all, there are different dimensions of the data. So we run through a whole process of understanding these dimensions of the data. What is the granularity of the data? I mean, if somebody wants to see the data at the most bottommost level of the entire organization, but the data which is available to us stands here, you cannot actually drill it down, and you can't show the consumer that data. So one of the dimensions is the granularity of the data. The second dimension is the frequency of the data. So how frequently are these data available to us and updated and refreshed? And then the third is the actual quality of the data. So for example, if there are any anomalies in the data, so when we actually create a dashboard, we look for the outliers. We do a control chart. So there are control charts where you can actually quickly just drop your data and see for yourself whether there are any outliers, whether the data sits between the 2 upper limits and the lower limits. You do that check. And then there are many other these things. But yes, I mean, it's a very valid question, and there is a good robust process to look at the data integrity. In short, that's the answer.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good to know. The other question came up was for small organizations, like small business, which has 30 to 40 employees and may not have extensive budget. So for those kind of companies or organizations, what's the best analytical tool that you suggest that should be able to take care of most of their decision-making process, and at the same time should not be put a hole in the budget?
Yeah. So if I can take this question, yeah. Thank you very much. Again, this is a very valid question, and just to put in the context, this data-driven decision making, and there is no much dependency on the tool. If the organization is is very small, and you think that you can't afford a big analytical tool, then even the Excel sheet, so spreadsheet, which is available almost everywhere, and that itself has got lot of advanced function, like, and by using the advanced function, you should be able to analyze, like, a pivot table. It's very powerful. Only thing what will happen, it may not be real time, Then you have Power Query also if you go inside, and there is Power Pivot. So even for the small organizations, tools like Excel sheet itself is good enough for doing this data-driven decision making. It is mostly how you collect the data, how do you bring all your stakeholders together and then make the decisions. The tool is means, but it is not the end actually. What is most important is you have the process, what kind of process you have in decision making. So even a small tool like Excel you should be able to use, and you should be able to make the decision, particularly if a team size is 40 or 50. So that's one solution. Apart from that, you saw there were other tools like QClick and all. Those are relatively cheap, and those are bespoke solutions which is available in the market. And in fact, many of those tools are available free of cost in the you can download and you can use. So this is another way of but I would suggest something which is very robust and time tested is Excel sheet, which is almost available everywhere. Only thing what you have to do, you have to be advanced user of Excel. By using Excel you can do a lot of analytics, and you can do proper kind of analysis. I hope that answers.
Yep, I think it does. And I'm getting some more interesting and very valid questions. So another question that came up is, from a change management perspective, what are some of the key areas that the top leadership in an organization should focus on in order to smoothly onboard the data-driven data management journey? So what are those key areas where the top leadership should focus on? I know that you have covered that, but if you can just give a top 5 or top 6 key areas.
Yeah. So what I covered is basically, one thing when you want to create, I mean, this is something which I covered during how do you drive data-driven culture in an organization. It is nothing but change management, So what is the most important? I mean, there are multiple things there are 10 points which I referred. But what is most important thing is advocacy by top leadership. So the person who is heading the organization or who is sitting in the top of the organization, first of all, he must lead by example. So that's one thing, change management, that's very important. Another pillar is when you're implementing this data-driven decision making, you have to also enable your staff. So they're training, creating a culture where people are aware of analytical tools. So you need to invest in training. That's another important. And third thing is your IT system. How strong is your IT system? Is your IT system in USA is talking with your IT system in India? So there should be an integration, so that this system should be very well integrated. And fourth and fifth, fourth important thing is your data source. So when you are getting the data, how do you ensure the validity of the information or data? So I would say advocacy by your leader, training of your staff, and then third thing will be your strong IT system, so that you are able to speak, and then your quality of data. So if these four things are key in driving change in an organization, apart from the multiple things which I discussed.
Yeah.
Anything else you would like to add, Athar? Athar, you're mute. Again, this was a fantastic question. Actually, this was a very good question.
Yeah, you have covered it very well, Riaz. Yes.
Okay, the next question that came up is on like time specific, like how much time usually it needs to be spent for analysis or putting the dashboards together. Do we need specific skill sets or highly skilled people in those areas of data analysis or data science?
Athar, you want to take this question?
Sure. I mean, typically an organization where you have got a team of analytics experts or analytics specialists, A dashboard might take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks to develop, starting from your requirements from the customer to the actual dashboard being published. It might take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks. This is the maturity level where an organization can actually reach out to in few years time. But in the beginning, there might be time like 3 to 4 weeks for someone to develop a dashboard. In Excel, it might be simple dashboards might take around 3 weeks time. But there are roles that are identified within the analytics team. I had mentioned about the business analyst role. Then there is this data analyst who is well versed with the tool, well versed with the process to prepare the data, to massage it, to actually then bring it inside the analytics and create different visuals. So the business analyst would not go and do that job. So you need to identify these different roles as well. But this is generally a time frame that is taken to develop a dashboard, 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you, Athar. So the next question is on the distribution of the data. So mostly we know that if we have a data in a bell-shaped distribution, which has distribution in terms of normal distribution. So the question is, should that data always be in that bell curve, or like how do we choose the? Again, I'm just qualifying this question because it looks like the person who has asked this question wanted to know how do we put the upper and lower level in a data set in order to get rid of the outliers. I believe that's the intent of the question.
Yeah, this Riaz, if you're happy, I take this one.
Yeah, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so this comes in the step of data massaging. When we look at the data, we see the whole population of the data, and we then start looking into the outliers. So, and this is very well done within an Excel as compared to Power BI. I mean, you don't want to really get into a tool like Power BI to massage the data and to actually look at its integrity. You can very well do this in Excel because this is a very robust tool, good enough for a huge amount of data, and you can see the outliers within that. So you can set a range of various different values. So typically, yes, things can follow a uniform distribution a bell curve. But then I have seen one of the dashboards where the bell curve doesn't get followed, and where we have applied this different statistical method called as the quartile. So we have looked at first quartile and the second quartile, the third quartile, the median. This takes care of the extreme range of data very well compared to the bell curve. So there are different statistical methods that we can make use of, but to massage the data, we can very well do that within the Excel and find out the anomalies, report it to the customer before you start utilizing them, because you're not the owner of the data. You're only making use of the data to create the dashboard. So you need to have this constant dialogue between yourself and the customer, whether they would like to keep that data or they would like to just kind of blur it and mute it. So these are all decisions that are taken during the entire process.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to add to what Athar said, so there are also established, statistical analysis tools available, where you do basically, when you do Monte Carlo analysis, then or suppose if you are developing a regression model, then what is your standard deviation? What is your R value? I mean, these are statistical analysis when you do, and then you will be able to find out what is the quality of your data or what the quality of result, and then something which is not fitting within your what you call upper and lower bound. You can either you can drop this data or you can you can do overfitting. So I mean that itself is a science. So data, I mean, this is a statistical analysis, part of the statistical analysis, and this is a separate topic itself. So in data validation, when you have large amount of data, then all those kind of analysis you can do.
Okay, thank you for the detailed answer. I hope this answers the question. So I've got two more questions, and one question is specific to a tool. So I'm not sure if we have all the answers, but at least I just want to present it here. The question is, does RStudio JGR software can solve DDDM? So do you have an answer for this? Like, has anyone used that RStudio, JGR?
No, I'm to be honest, I'm not aware about of that tool, but if the
Yes.
person who has asked that question, um, if he can tell who is the, I mean, from I haven't seen that tool at least. I mean, there are 2-3. Athar was showing, some of the tools which is available in the market, which is commonly used, and among them, now Power BI and Tableau. These are the two very, very common tool across the globe which is being used. So I'm not aware of this tool. I don't know, Athar, if you are aware about this tool.
There's equivalent to Python. There is a language called as R. I'm not sure whether that is being referred here, but yeah, double JR or something I have not heard of either.
JGR.
JGR. No, we haven't heard of that.
Okay. There's last question that came from iron recycling plant. So the question here is, I'll just try to read it out. So we have an iron recycling plant and we make billets of various grades and need to add ferroalloys. We have a daily log sheet generated on the furnace, usage power consumed, ferroalloys used, cost of ferroalloys, number of heats produced, and the chemical analysis, etc. So he's asking specific to his industry and specific to his process. So he's asking, or he or she is asking, what kind of data analysis can be done and what kind of dashboards needs to be used for the management. So as of now, they are doing everything in Excel sheets. But the question is, how can we utilize this data into analytical tools to make a proper decision making?
Riaz?
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Thank you. Again, very good question and a very relevant question. But again, as I mentioned, so first of all, when you develop a dashboard, there is 6-7 steps, that well-defined steps. Now, the person who has asked, it is a fantastic question, but one thing what is the pain point? So suppose if I assume that person is my customer, then I would like, what is his pain points? And what is that he wants to do with this data? What is the problem today he is facing? What is the ultimate goal? Okay, so if he say my problem is this, and keeping these 3 problems, I want to solve this problem, and today this is my performance of my what you call the plant, and then where you want to move. The second thing what we'll do, so first we'll have discussion with the person that okay, I don't remember, but I understand it is with the billets and then the temperature. Now suppose if they want to improve the performance of the plant, if that is the maybe today it may be giving 50 metric ton, and then you want to improve your production capacity to 100 metric ton, then what are the performance parameters which is impacting production? So that we have to see, and then based on that we have to design the KPI. What are those KPIs which we need to monitor, which will help to improve this performance, and all those stakeholders. So and then so once we have understood this bigger picture, then we will see what are the source of data, how are you collecting the data, and then we will come up with a mock-up. Okay, so this is what your current data is telling me, and then we will have a discussion, and then finally basically in discussion with the client or in discussion with the customer or the person who has asked the question, we will come up with a dashboard. Okay, so you want to move from here to there. So the example which I showed one or the call center, you will have what are the lagging indicators, what are the leading indicators. So once we have created a framework of what exactly we are planning to achieve, once that is established, we will connect the data sources. What are the data sources? And the next comes, how do I pull the data? How do I make sure the data which is getting every day in my dashboard is correct, relevant, and it is real time, so that we get and then so once these 2 things are done, then you establish, you come up with a framework, you develop a dashboard, and then but share, and then you talk with different stakeholders. Once you have understood their requirements, when you have to tweak that, and then finally, once it is developed, the next question will be how I am going to maintain it. It is not one time, it has to be every day, so make sure that how I am going to get the information. So it means connecting their different sources of data, and then making sure the data is getting refreshed, and then finally you come with the dashboard. So in summary, I mean, there is a established process of developing a dashboard, but what is most important is the person who, what is his need, what exactly he needs. So that has to come from the customer. And once we have understood the bigger picture, once we understood where we want to go, what are the KPIs, then we can design a dashboard. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you for the detailed answer. I think one of the most important questions that came up, and more likely, I believe it's from the younger generation who wanted to explore into this data science area and wants to make a living out of this. So one person is asking, like, is there any scope as a freelancer to do data analysis for companies, and what are the requirements to be a data analyst, and where can I get this certification? So I believe this is definitely one of the most aspiring or interesting field, and most like there are so many job positions open, and a lot of development is happening in this area. So that's the reason there's a lot of buzz around this industry as well. So the question is more directed towards the future opportunities to grow as a data scientist or grow as a data analyst, and how can we start this journey with the resources that we have available, and whether the company like WS Atkins would be a source for opportunities for a data analyst or data scientist going forward.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, this is again a very good question. I was expecting that definitely. I mean, this is really very relevant question. One thing is nowadays, if you go to Google and type the job opportunities in data science or analytics and in visualization, it is ample, and this is hot cake in the market today, in fact. So this is one of the highest paid job in the market, as of at least I know, and because myself and Athar, we are into this business, and we always look for people who has really good skill in particularly in an analytical side. It is just not the data science, but project management plus data science, what we need. So to answer his question, there is huge opportunity across the globe, and all the companies nowadays, they are doing this digital transformation, and they need this kind of skill. So the data scientist, visualization, business analyst, these are lot of job openings are there across India, particularly if you place like Bangalore, Mumbai. Okay, that's one thing. Now another question was that how do I do? So I'm just talking about there are multiple online courses which is available on data science. I mean, IITs they are running, IIMs they are running. If you go to Microsoft itself, they have their own training centers. So that you can go Udemy. There are many others. So there are multiple multiple good institute, but I would which is available particularly on data science. One thing which I have seen, and in fact we have taken help of some of the vendors. So if you find a Microsoft certified trainer across the India anywhere, please go and get the certification. So once you have that, I'm sure, I mean, people will be able to get the job very quickly.
Yeah, and just to add on top of it, there are companies like, as you mentioned, Microsoft. They have their own training division where you can get training for a specific subject for free, completely free.
Yes.
Also, you can go to Tableau because they have to also market their software, right? And they definitely need people who are mastering their software. So Tableau, Microsoft. Also, you can explore some of the open course softwares like Coursera or EDX, where the universities like Harvard and MIT, they have offered free courses on data science and data visualization, and where you can find, like, Coursera is a platform where you can find the offers from multiple different universities across the world, and you can take it for free without even paying a single dime for it. And sometimes you may not be able to get the certificate, but at the end of the day, if you are able to prove yourself, able to show that you are really well versed in doing a data analysis, if you have built your portfolio, if you have built your resume, make a short video of your achievement, your knowledge, what you can do, take a case study and put it into a visualization. So at least you are showing a live example. And a lot of these companies nowadays, they don't look at your degree or your certification. They look at your skills. What are you good at? And for a person who is trying to do a freelancing or trying to establish themselves as an independent contractual employee, can take advantage of these free offerings. Once they dedicate their time and have a focus, I'm sure it will not be a very big hurdle to achieve.
Yeah, I think we are close to we have just 4 minutes left.
Yes. So I really want to thank Mr. Riaz Ahmed and Mr. Athar Sayed for their deep insights and their knowledge into the industry, and putting everything together in this short conversation of 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's really been very insightful, and I hope people have gained a bunch of knowledge and taken advantage of this. And thank you, Mr. Siaram Singh, for your support and giving us this opportunity to talk about this subject and launch this webinar on DDDM. And thank you all the organizers, Mr. Sen and Mr. Devraj, for your help. I would like you to give the final closing words. Mrs.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir,
Sen.
for kind words. And for the last 2 hours, sir, we are really in another world of data-driven culture, sir. Our esteemed panelist, Mr. Riaz Ahmed, sir, explained different aspects of data-driven decision making, its significance, benefits, and data-driven culture. And he has also introduced different real-life examples. Mr. Ahmed also described about 7-step data-driven decision-making process, different issues associated with incorporating data-driven culture, challenges in driving data-driven issues and culture. Mr. Athar Said, sir, in his address started with the traditional approach of data analysis and its reporting, and by means of discrete and disconnected database. He also explained lucidly different options in advanced analytics and reporting to different case studies, and quality and compliance management, program controls management, and so on. Sir, we are very much delighted and benefited, sir, with your thoughtful deliberations for the last 2 hours. With this, sir, we are on behalf of IEI headquarters, on behalf of our Jharkhand State Center, with kind permission from Chairman Shiranjan Kumar Singh, sir, with all the permission from the moderator and the panelists, we are now closing the session with this vote of thanks. We are very much thankful to Mr. Riaz Ahmed, Director, Program Management Services, Global Design Center, WS Acting, Bangalore. We are very much thankful to Mr. Athar Said, Delivery Manager, Program Management Services, Global Design Center, WS Acting, Bangalore. We are thankful to our moderator, Mr. Mohammad Parvez, IT Manager, Herbalife Nutrition NC USA, who has given his slot for to attend this session from outside India. Sir, we are very much thankful to you. And last but not least, sir, Mr. Shiranjan Kumar Singh, sir, Chairman, Jharkhand State Center, and Council Member IEI, who has attended our webinar session, and from the very beginning till the end, sir, we are very much thankful to you, sir. With your kind permission, now we are now concluding the session, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Sir,
Thanks a
sir,
lot.
one
Thank you,
request
Thank
to our
you.
panelists only. Kindly share. We have to also forward our emails. Please share your this PowerPoint presentations in PDF, no problem, for publication of 1 or 2 very attractive slides in our IEI news. Sir, this is for your kind information. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.